Let me tell you what I've been thinking about today and thinking about recently. I'm reading these days in 2 Chronicles. Some of you wouldn't look forward to reading in 2 Chronicles, but the more I'm reading there, though I've done it dozens of times, the more I find things that give me pause. I came across several phrases in my reading just now in the 25th chapter of 2 Chronicles about a great king of Judah, one of those kings that was approved of by the writer of the Scriptures, because most of the time he obeyed the Lord God, but it wasn't the kind of obeying of God that he ought to have given. It says that this man came to the throne when he was 25 years old to be leader of the people of God. Now, I want us always to keep that fact in mind, that as far as the Bible was concerned, it wasn't simply a matter of being king of a nation. It was a matter of being one who was leading God's people. So there was God's purpose to be considered in all of this. And I interrupt myself at that point to say to you, if we read history correctly, if we read current events correctly, we would say always, God has a plan for our world. God has a plan, therefore, for each nation. But whether those plans for our world or for each nation are to be fulfilled is going to depend upon the leader of the nation, the leaders of the nations of the world, and in countries where there is some measure of democracy, the leadership and the support of the people who bring about the leadership of the nation. God has a plan, but those plans of God are not necessarily fulfilled. That depends on people and whether they're ready to cooperate with God or not. So I look at this phrase here in the story of this king. It says, he obeyed the Lord's will, but not with full obedience. Well, that describes a good many of us, not just kings and prophets, not just preachers or seminary professors or what have you. All of us are in that danger that we will obey the Lord, but not with full obedience. We want the Lord's will, but not with full obedience. So what happened as time unfolded? The prophet came to the king to persuade him of the purpose of following God. And then the writer says this, but the king would have his way. And that sounds too like you and me and like the world in which we live, that we insist on being king. We're going to have our way. We're going to do it our way. And then near the conclusion of that 25th chapter, this deadly line, but ever since this king forsook the Lord, fresh troubles befell him. I hear people asking so often, why did God allow this, that, or the next thing to happen? As if God should constantly interfere with our human freedom because we insist to turn our freedom into arrogance. And then we say when we're in bad trouble, when things have collapsed, whether in our personal lives, in the churches of which we're a part, the institutions of which we're related, or the nation, or the city, or the state, we say, why did God allow this to happen? God is not controlling us. God urges us. He appeals to us. He reprimands us at times. And indeed, there are times when the hand of God is clearly working in a disciplinary way. But we can still do our own arrogant, stupid thing if we insist on it. I'm a bit of an authority on this because I've done my stupid thing more than once in my life as an individual with my own life. I think, as a pastor, was not always as sensitive to God's purposes as I should have been. I wanted the will of God, but like this king, not all the way. The obedience wasn't perfect. I want you to know that God's will for our world is good. God's will for your church is good. God's will for your life is good. But God won't hamstring you and force you to do the right thing. He leaves it with you and me to decide what we're going to do with our lives. And we can, if we want, end up destroying ourselves or the causes with which we work if we will not follow the will of God with all our heart. That's what I've been thinking about today. God bless you.